Budapest is accusing Ukraine of deliberately delaying the repair of Druzhba pipeline that delivers crude oil from Russia to Hungarian refineries, and is threatening stoppage of electricity exports to Ukraine and also diesel fuel exports to Ukraine, along with vetoing a number of measures against Russia or those that support Ukraine, like 90 billion euro loan. But are these decisions of Budapest taken really by Viktor Orbán himself, or they are taken elsewhere? As Zsuzsanna Szabó, our Visegrad Insight fellow and expert on energy and geostrategy, explains, there is a high probability that Mr. Orbán's decisions are not really his own. Listen to this episode. Welcome to the Visegrad Insight podcast.
We bring you global experts on the future of democracy, security, and economy.
The leading voices from Central Europe and on Central Europe.
Hosted by editors of Visegrad Insight.
Powered by Respublika Foundation from Warsaw, Poland. Hi, it's Monday, 23rd of February 2026. My name is Wojciech Przybylski and I'm hosting one of our Visegrad Insight fellows, Zsuzsanna Szabó, expert in geoeconomics, if I could say, and author of numerous pieces, numerous articles at Visegrad Insight, and formerly also working for S&P and a number of specialist journals in Norway. Now I think we connect with you when you're sitting in Oslo, right?
That's right. And morning, everyone. Thanks for having me on the program. Just a quick correction. I worked for one Norwegian publication and several actually American and British ones. And yeah, energy is, I can say by now it's my specialty, maybe.
Definitely it is. We are relying in our material that we provide for our readers largely on Zsuzsanna's expertise. And this is why we connect today. We want to talk about what is going on in terms of energy, looking specifically at the tension building up between Budapest and Kyiv over the Druzhba pipeline, over the blackmail that Hungary is pushing on Ukraine regarding the return to delivery of the gas, Russian gas, through the Druzhba pipeline by Ukraine. To unpack this story, I think first we should mention how much dependent on Russian fossil fuel Hungary and Slovakia, to whatever extent you follow Slovakian case, really is. How much this dependency is for real, and how much this is just imagined story.
Thanks for actually reaching me out, especially that I'm a Hungarian and I'm concerned about what's going on at the moment in Hungary, because this is not a healthy level of dependency. When it comes to crude oil, which is the problematic one at the moment, it's like more than 90% of Russian crude oil coming to Hungary. And this is actually deliberate. I think this is not the first time that maybe the audience hear about it, that Hungary and Slovakia have got exempt of, so they are still permitted to import Russian crude oil, the Ural crude oil, and that's cheaper than the Brent. But what actually the Hungarian energy major MOL does, and the reason why I'm a bit reluctant to bring Slovakia into it, because actually the Slovakian refinery is owned by MOL. MOL is the controlling, holds the majority control in terms of ownership. So that's why actually the Hungarian side has the say.
MOL is the Hungarian refinery, also a capital group essentially that has ownership in Slovakia, in Poland,
yes.
When it comes to distribution. And
they are regionally quite a strong player. And what they do if I don't consider the moral aspect, is actually pretty smart. And if the investment would be, how should I put it, more focused on the Hungarian voters, which you probably know elections are coming up in 2 months' time, citizens would be more forgiving. But what's happening, literally, MOL purchase the cheaper Russian crude oil, which is now like, I would say like it's like 6.5 million tons of Russian crude oil coming into Hungary, which is nearly covers the Hungarian consumption. And they use actually the margin. So they purchase the cheaper crude from Russia, and then they distribute and they sell the product actually fixed to the Brent price. So this is actually a great profit, not only actually to MOL. I wouldn't like to pinpoint to them, because the key player here is actually the Hungarian government itself. There is a so-called solidarity tax. And it's actually, I'm happy that you highlighted that I sit in Norway, which they won't be happy about calling them as a petrol state, but we shouldn't forget their wealth is coming from the oil and gas sale as well. And they have a similar approach, which means the Norwegian state actually takes like 70% of the profit of the Norwegian gas sale, and that goes into the wealth fund. And that's why actually how the Norwegian wealth has been built up over time. And that's why actually the famous Norwegian healthcare, social care, you name it. But in Hungary, it's like 95% this profit. I mean, this solidarity tax.
The solidarity tax that is not really in solidarity with the people, but it's in solidarity with the ruling clique.
Exactly, but I mean, it's like, I think that shows that I think this homogeneous support towards the current government is fading, because it's interesting to hear when key beneficiaries like the CEO of MOL, Hernadi, openly criticizing the Hungarian government that this is a socialist attitude, that taking like more than 90% of their profit simply away from their budget and just using for its own benefits. And actually, that's true, because there is I'm trying to give a proper English translation, because I think this is a specific term even actually made up by the Hungarian government. It's called Rezsécsökkentési alap. It's like the utility bill reduction fund. So that profit goes into a special fund, which is actually in name is for the people, but in reality, this is the key political tool what the government use. We are talking about, I checked it up, I think yesterday, like 200-300 billion Hungarian forints.
Which is how much in euro for?
Oh, I mean, on top of my head, it's difficult to say, but in euros, I would say like now it's like 400, little lower than 400 forint is 1 euro. I promise I will do the math for you, but this is a huge sum. And my point is that if the government really wanted to help the people, actually, we wouldn't have aging rail infrastructure. Hospitals wouldn't close down after each other. So
I think we are immediately entering the context of the elections. But before we do, because election campaign is nigh, it's essentially a month and a half ahead of the vote. But you mentioned that the fund is being misappropriated. Essentially, it is not being used for the purposes that are being declared, and people start to see that because the infrastructure is falling apart, if I may say, in a number of regions, especially in the more distant regions from the capitals or the bigger settlements. You do not see the the benefits of such a taxation as being described for the purpose of the nation building, national improvement. And instead, we know this is being used for political corruption. But before we go to electoral story, I just wanted to touch base on the question of the Druzhba pipeline and the tensions between Ukraine and Hungary. And I wanted to bring into the picture also the American side, because all of that happened in 1 week. There was Marco Rubio's Secretary of State visit to Budapest, which was, like in Slovakia, about selling American LNG primarily. And on the other hand, we had a prolonging situation since 27th of January, where Ukraine is not repairing or not able to repair. Simply, it just doesn't happen. The Druzhba pipeline that delivers the oil, which you described, is so fundamentally important for the Hungarian government and Hungarian economy altogether, is being stopped. So what are Hungarians' options and what they are blackmailing Ukraine with? Because they already say they are going to hit back, and the Hungarian ambassador just hit back on blocking the 19 billion loan that EU countries want to give to Ukraine.
Maybe I was not clear enough because I didn't mean as electoral anecdote when I brought up the funding. I mean the fund that generated from this solidarity tax. But the reason why the government is so sensitive and became so radical with Ukraine, because Ukraine managed to find, I would say, the Achilles knee of the government, because this fund is normally used in Hungary to finance their political supporters within and outside of the border. So this is how they can not manipulate, but to a certain extent, yes, manipulate the outcome. And that's actually, this was a key tool to keep themselves on power. And now, actually, the government has got a key challenger. And that's why.
So just, okay, since you mentioned that, let me rephrase that I understand it correctly. You said it's an Achilles feat of the Hungarian government during the campaign, because the fund that these profits from essentially from the tax, solidarity tax, were used in the previous years also by Orbán to directly inject money to voters' wallets. Essentially, these were subsidies that every Hungarian just felt their incoming money into their wallets physically, accompanying with government propaganda, letters in the mailboxes telling them, well, Mr. Orbán is just giving you money, not mentioning that, of course, this money was first taken away from the Hungarian economy. But now Ukrainians are definitely putting the pressure where it hurts the electoral effort of Mr. Orbán. To what extent that can hurt him?
Actually, the timing and also the extent is, I would say, from Ukrainian perspective, but the Hungarian government won't be happy about hearing this. It's just perfect. I mean, if you follow the domestic happenings in Hungary, Peter Magyar is gaining popularity because he had actually the sensitivity about the Hungarians' needs and how to address their needs. The problems in the social sector, in the infrastructure, you name it. And also, he had two energy expert hirings, Mr. Kapitan and Mr. Orbán. Anita Orbán, not Viktor Orbán, obviously. And I assume they also gave him some input how actually politics and energy walk hand in hand. And nowadays, they're just inseparable. So those who doesn't see what's going on in the energy markets won't understand the political aspect of it, and the other way around. And if you understand both, actually, you have actually a winning, I would say, hand. And I have a feeling that the Ukrainians follow closely these elections, and not only Ukrainians, Croatians. And I've been concerned for a very long time that the current government is maintaining such an unhealthy relation with literally our neighbors, and because we've lived next to each other for thousands of years, and that's not going to change, and we need to do that regardless Orbán government or post-Orbán government. But that again brings into actually or highlights the question that the government supports the interest of whom? I mean, the Hungarians or the Russians? Because if you look at it, that veto, or for example, not only on the oil side, but also the other key export product of the Russians is the gas side. The Hungarian government renewed a long-term contract with Russia just in 2021 until 2036, if my memory serves well, at an insanely high price, and we cannot change it. This is a long-term contract, and that's a binding contract. And since then, the price of the gas fell back like at least 50%. So that was definitely a bad deal for Hungarians, and that's why, for example, Rezsécsökkentési, or this utility bill reduction, it's an illusion in reality, and it absolutely doesn't serve the interest of the very people.
Hi, if you're enjoying this episode, why not subscribe to Visegrad Insight? This gives you access to all our latest content online, as well as to our live and online events. You can use our special promo code for Visegrad Insight podcast listeners to get 35% off. Just go to visegradinsight.eu, choose a yearly subscription, and apply code Visegrad35. And now, back to the podcast.
Now let's focus on. We spoke briefly about Ukraine, so we know that Druzhba pipeline has been not operable since 27th of January. We know that this is because of Russian attack, but also there is speculation that Ukrainians are simply not in a hurry to repair the pipeline, as they managed to repair the pipeline hit before and on a number of occasions in a much quicker pace. But currently they're holding off. There is a diplomatic tension. As I mentioned, Hungarian ambassador has decided to pressure Hungary. To pressure Ukraine by Hungary by also saying that they will not sign off on the 90 billion loan by the EU, a loan in which Hungary is not participating anyway, because Hungary and a number of other countries, Slovakia and Czechia, for instance, will not repay the loan that would be given to Ukraine, and so. There is this diplomatic pressure in reverse. There is also a threat that both Hungary and Slovakia will stop exports of both diesel fuel to Ukraine and of electricity. And Hungary here is one of those countries that provides electricity to Ukraine on a reverse. In the first days of the renewed invasion in February 2022, it was actually Ukraine that was providing surplus to a number of countries, Romania, Hungary, Slovakia. But since then, and since Russian attacked the energy grid, Hungary is one of the countries that, through the Hungarian grid, the electricity goes through. It's a matter of different calculation of where the energy is being produced, but in essence, there is a bridge that Hungary wants to stop when it comes to Ukraine. So there is a mounting pressure, which reads inhumane, as you started saying at the very beginning of our conversation. I wonder where does it lead, especially that, as you just mentioned, Croatia is also in the picture. And Croatian Minister of Economy has been very vocal, including his posts on X, of how feasible it is for Croatia to deliver Hungary of what it needs provided this doesn't come from Russia, right? What do you think of this option? And what do you make of the Hungarian pressure on Ukrainians? Who's going to back down? Who's going to be kind of who will have the upper hand in this standoff?
When it comes to Ukraine, it's very sad, and again, as a Hungarian, it's rather embarrassing that the Hungarian government is literally blackmailing a country that is battling at the moment and fighting against a brutal invasion, where we should not forget people dying on a daily basis. And that's the moral aspect. And still, I would say it's incredible on the Ukrainian side that they able to actually withhold all the pressure they need to actually endure. But here comes into play, when it comes to the energy supply, is the help of Poland. And what I can only say to Ukraine, I mean, the ideal situation would be, and that's why I highlighted, we are talking about, except Ukraine, because that's territory-wise, is a big country considering the region, but Hungary, Croatia, Slovakia, these are small countries, and we are actually very dependent on each other. And yes, as you highlighted also quite rightly, when it comes to electricity trading, gas trading, these countries also interconnected, and not only Hungarian, Slovakian, Ukrainian, Croatian players take part in it. It's literally entire region takes part in it. So it hurts business interest, and it's not a good, so to speak, certificate about a country if they cannot provide a healthy business environment. On the Ukrainian side, I mean, if they can, they probably will uphold the pressure, and everyone, Croatia for sure. I mean, these 2 months, because when it comes to the energy supply, I mean, the infrastructure is ready. Yes, it will be more expensive to get the crude oil through the Adria pipeline and bring it up to Százhalombatta, where there is the Hungarian refinery. And we hear that Hungary needs 14 million tons of crude oil annually. That's not correct. That's actually the combined maximum combined consumption of Slovakia and Hungary. So that's a communal campaign from the foreign minister of Hungary when we hear these numbers. But my point is that the pipeline is already ready for, if on top of my head, I would say like 10 million ton, and they are actually ready to expand the capacity in case of need. But I'm not sure the Croatian counterpart is really interested to deal with the current government. And maybe what they do, they just wait until the elections and hoping for the change of government, because for them, I mean, it's like already when it comes to negotiations, even before the elections, the major opponent is the one, and our new lady foreign minister, who is going to be the foreign minister of Hungary, Anita Orbán, if the new government gets elected and happens, or eventually the Orbán government needs to step down, the Croatian government, the Croatian delegation, they already had a chat with the new non-informal government, so to speak, or
shadow foreign minister. Yeah.
Shadow foreign minister. That's the right term indeed, and not with Péter Szijjártó. And I think that's already sends a signal. And when I look at the European market, it looks like it's starting to pricing in a new government. I mean, in a way that actually that would be more easier for Europe to deal with and to make business with. And the current government, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't do that. I mean, I understand the reason. They fight for their own political survival, and that's why actually now in my impression, they use tools what I'm not sure otherwise they would do.
Well, at the same time, this is a campaign period, and you rightly pointed out Anita Orbán, who comes as a heavyweight. Previously, she was part of the government of Viktor Orbán. They are not interrelated family-wise, but in her earlier stage of her career, she was an expert on energy and specifically Russian energy. As a more of an analyst, expert, personnel of the government of Viktor Orbán. Now she comes, like Peter Magyar, also formerly Orbán government official, from the back, and offers completely new vision. If someone is looking into her foreign policy program, she talks about north-south connectivity, which is exactly the opposite of what Hungary has been pursuing. As you said, Hungarian government under Viktor Orbán has increased the dependency on crude oil, on the gas from Russia, despite the higher than expected or higher than the global average costs of such transactions, saying this is for the benefit of the people. Apparently it is not. It's just a form of taxation on his own people. But with the potential change in the government, and Anita Orbán may becoming a foreign minister, currently shadow foreign minister in the cabinet of Peter Magyar, the contender for the prime minister of Hungary in the elections that will take place on the 12th of April. She brings in this energy portfolio in a world where everybody talks energy. Everybody from Iran talks, and Strait of Hormuz, Europe's future, Europe's sovereignty, to talk about where Europe is going to get its fuel. By the way, we heard comments of Mr. Trump last week on the 20th, I think it was Friday. He mentioned that we should look at Central Eastern Europe of what it does well in opposition to the rest of Europe, naming Hungary, Poland, Czechia, and Slovakia as the V4 countries at his press briefing, as those who are doing the right thing on energy, probably meaning also contracts being signed regarding American deliveries. We understand this in this term. We should understand this message in such terms. So the foreign minister coming with a strong energy portfolio and also shifting the geopolitical direction, the perspective away from this dependency from Russia towards interdependency, European networks can bring indeed a lot of fresh air. But I would say, and tell me in a short comment if you can, I would say that even if Orbán wins, or makes it through. We're not making political bets right now. We will have a separate State of Hungary session in a near future on the topic. But if Mr. Orbán makes it through and remains in power, his options are going to be limited nonetheless, and he will have to moderate his position. Am I right or am I wrong? What's your bet?
I mean, when it comes to Viktor Orbán, I think it's getting to be more and more clear-cut that his decisions are not only made in Budapest. And I'm sorry to say, but when it comes to with the veto, I mean, that keep vetoing all the sanctions in the European Union, and that's not in the interest of Hungarians. Hungarians, like one of the avid supporters of the European Union membership, it's a Kremlin interest, and that's actually the concerning that how far he would go, or the Kremlin makes him go. And yeah, I mean, this is something I wouldn't dare to make a bet either. And you mentioned in our previous conversation the upcoming sanction package, and just had a brief look at it. And the sanction is going to aim the crude oil transported literally maritime, not through pipeline. I mean, that's going to be sanctioned. So all the areas that not necessarily impacting Hungary or Hungarian interest, because our crude oil actually pumped through pipeline, and we don't receive actually vessels bringing Russian crude oil. So it's not in Hungary's interest to use this veto again. it's Russia's interest.
We stop there and we follow through with your upcoming writing and analysis on whichever portal, but also including Visegrad Insight. Thank you very much, Zsuzsanna Szabó, for joining the podcast and sharing your insights on energy and geopolitics.
Thank you very much.
And that's all from this week's episode of the Visegrad Insight podcast, bringing you the leading voices from Central Europe and on Central Europe.
Make sure to subscribe, and we'll be in touch next week.